All right, so let's get into this because we're about to break down a story that kicks off with a simple date and somehow ends with a life or death ultimatum. This whole thing is a wild ride, a mix of a huge misunderstanding, some serious obsession, and the crazy lengths one person goes to protect somebody else.
I mean, seriously, how does that even happen? It sounds completely insane, right? But that's exactly what went down. One minute it's a Tuesday morning, the next there's breaking glass and a firebomb under a window. Let's really dig into how a simple mix-up spiraled this far out of control.
So the story starts with our guy Nick. He's just minding his business, and his Tuesday morning gets completely wrecked by a Molotov cocktail. Now, the person who threw it? A woman he'd just met named Nisha. And why'd she do it? Because she was dead certain he was a spy sent by her obsessive and pretty dangerous ex-boyfriend Paul.
Look at this timeline. You can see just how fast this whole thing went off the rails. And it all comes down to one single moment. On their date, Nick gets nervous, he's trying to find something to talk about, and he drops Paul's name, a name he only knows through his boy Josh. But for Nisha, that name was a massive trigger. That one mistake leads straight to the firebomb, that a frantic phone call where she literally gives him 5 minutes to explain himself, and finally Nick scrambling to get Josh on a three-way call to prove it was all a terrible, terrible mistake. And when Nisha says this, everything shifts. You realize the firebomb, this crazy act, it wasn't really about Nick at all. It was a desperate move, an act of self-preservation that came from the pure terror this one dude was putting her through. And that's where we meet the real problem in this story. Let's talk about Paul, because he's the real villain here. His obsession with Nisha is the engine driving this entire mess. This dude isn't just some heartbroken ex, you know? He's a straight-up harasser who refuses to let go, and he's creating this vortex of fear that's just pulling everyone down with him. And look, this isn't just Nisha being paranoid. Check out this list. These are Paul's actions. We're talking following her, breaking into her home, completely ignoring a restraining order. This is a documented pattern of terror, man. It's so bad she had to move back in with her mom and just lives in constant fear. So her reaction, as wild as it was, it's coming from a very, very real place.
So on one hand, you've got Paul's twisted reality. He actually believes that his stalking, his harassment, that's love. But on the other hand, you have Nick, a total outsider who just walked into this, and he sees it for exactly what it is: terrorism. And right there, in that moment, Nick realizes Nisha's problem is now his problem too. So what's Nick gonna do? He can't just stand by, right? He decides he's gotta step in, he's gonna confront Paul directly, man to man, hoping he can just shut this whole thing down before it gets any worse.
So picture the scene. A hardware store parking lot. It's gotta be tense. Nick walks right up to Paul with one simple, direct request. Leave Nisha alone. He's trying to handle it with words first. Give Paul a fair chance to walk away without any more trouble. But listen to Paul's response. It tells you everything you need to know. The guy is completely detached from reality. He doesn't hear a warning, he just hears someone in his way. In his mind, Nisha doesn't get a choice. She's just confused. And that's when Nick knows. Just asking nicely is not going to cut it. So Nick turns up the heat. He warns Paul about Nisha's brothers, Marcus and Dre, who do not play around. He gives Paul a real-world example of what they do. They broke a guy's ribs just for getting a little too aggressive. The message is crystal clear. If you keep messing with their sister, what do you think they're going to do to you? But that first conversation, it's a total failure. Paul just drives off, not worried, not convinced at all. And Nick knows right then, his first approach didn't work. So now he's got to shift gears from trying to de-escalate to ending this threat for good. And Nick's whole new mindset is captured perfectly in this line he tells Nisha. Careful means avoiding trouble. Smart and dangerous means ending it. See, he's done trying to be careful. He's decided the only way forward is to face this problem head on and make damn sure it never comes back. And this slide right here shows you how the pressure on Paul is just building and building. First, you've got the brothers, Marcus and Dre, ready to handle their business. But then Nick throws a new name in the mix, Big Tony. He tells Marcus that if Paul doesn't back off, he and Tony are going to have a whole different kind of conversation. The threat isn't even a suggestion anymore. It's spelled out. And it ends with two simple words: farewell, Paul. Now, you're not going to believe this, but Paul is actually the one who asks for a second meeting. He calls Nick, tells him to meet back at the same hardware store, but Nick isn't coming to talk this time. No, he's showing up to deliver a final, non-negotiable ultimatum. So Nick lays out 4 paths for Paul, 4 choices. They range from just poof, disappear, to leaving town, to actually getting help in fixing himself. But the one thing they all have in common? None of them involve Nisha. He's basically giving Paul a chance to save his own life. But Paul, still defiant, still not getting how serious this is, he asks the one question he really shouldn't. And if I don't? He's pushing Nick one last time, just to see if this is all a bluff.
And there it is. The answer. One word. No hesitation. Death. Nick makes it absolutely clear what the 5th option is. This isn't a discussion. It's not a negotiation. It's a choice between life and death. Period.
So the final warning is on the table. Paul has until the next morning. If he's still around, if he hasn't picked one of those 4 ways out, then Nick is going to choose for him. And just like he told Marcus on the phone, the result will be that Nisha won't ever have to worry about Paul again. And that's what this whole story leaves us with. This one big question. Nick stepped up to protect Nisha from a real, genuine danger. But in doing that, he became a threat himself, didn't he? His actions, you could argue they were necessary, but they walked a very, very thin line. So what do you think? In a situation this extreme, where does protection stop and something else begin?